Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well and having a great day. I am actually going to be getting this up pretty late on Monday, so most of you probably won't even see it till Tuesday or even Wednesday, depending on where you are in the world. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. I picked this sled up from scrapbook.com. It is from Kaisercraft, and of course, I will have all of these supplies listed down below. And it is just some really thin MDF board, and I'm just showing you that you kind of pull apart some of the pieces, and then I'm just cutting off the little edges that held it together, and then I will sand those little edges down just a little bit with my Prima distress tool. And on the distress tool there is a few different ways you can use. There's sanding methods, I guess. There's one metal part which is like sandpaper, and that's what I'm using. So just show you just a few. I don't want to bore you guys with all of that. But I am taking it and adding some Fabri-Tac. You can use E6000 or something that is going to hold it together really well. And I just glue it all together. It's pretty big, but it's not an overwhelming size to work with. It's a really nice size. I want to say it's probably about 10 inches maybe when it's all put together, possibly 9 maybe. I should have measured it, but I didn't. After it's all put together and the glue's dried, I am adding a generous coat of gesso, and I actually do 2 coats of white gesso. I don't show you all of that because this video is already so long, and I didn't want to bore you guys. And you could, of course, use acrylic paint, or even if you wanted a totally different look to this project, you can use black gesso and go that route as well. But I wanted a softer look to my sled, so I am using white gesso. And after that dries, again, I added 2 coats. So after that dries, I am adding some white Crackle paste. And like always, I am adding some thicker in some areas and then some thinner in other areas. That way I get a variation of cracks. So some are larger and some are smaller. And I did actually have to go to my kids' school and help out a little bit. So I did actually, probably for the first time, I let it dry naturally all on its own, and I came back and it looked amazing. And I did have to kind of touch up a couple areas where there wasn't any cracks. So here I have all of my embellishments that I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to place them. And I wanted the focal point to be in the upper left hand corner there. And I'm using mostly Prima, well, actually all Prima products. Later on in the video, I do add some different chipboard and things, but for right now, it is a Prima resin frame. And then also a piece of, I always talk about this, how I have a kind of like a bucket full of IOD molds that I do all at once with the clay, and I use paper clay, and most of the time I just use what's at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. A lot of times I get the one, it's in a black package, sorry I can't talk, and it has a horse on it, like a chess piece I think or something. A lot of people ask me what clay I use. That's the one I use. And again, I'm just using Fabri-Tac to glue everything down, and I'm going to be adding some flowers here and there, and it doesn't really matter what color the flowers are. I just chose flowers that I liked the shape and that I thought would look really cool once the gesso was on it, because I am going to be covering it all with gesso. So I am adding a littler focal point at the bottom right hand corner, and I don't add too much to this because I wanted the main focus to be on the top left hand corner. So I have all these I guess most people would probably throw them away, but I've been keeping them and using them here and there. They're like the pop-out pieces from chipboard, and I'm using some circles and then some hexagons and just adding them here and there. And then these little pieces are I'm adding are stars, and all of these chipboard pieces are from Too Crafty chipboard, and I will try to link down below to where you can purchase them. And I just place them kind of randomly here and there. I knew that everything was going to get covered up, but I knew also that I wanted a lot of interest and texture and different kind of texture on my project once it's all finished. So I love this little sheet of stars and hearts. There's just so many, and I've used them on so many different projects. So I am using some art pebbles from Prima, and I love the little teeny tiny ones and like the smaller ones. I have so many of the bigger ones. I need to find projects to use them on because I just have so many. But I'm just placing them here and there, again, just to add some more texture and interest to the project. You can use anything that you have on hand. I always say this when I'm doing mixed media projects like this. You can, you know, rummage through your garage, your junk drawer, find bottle caps, screws, anything that you think has cool texture to it, and will add interest to your project. It doesn't have to be, you know, specifically scrapbooking or crafting items, because I know it can get a little bit pricey. Just get creative and use what you have on hand. You can use corrugated cardboard from shipping boxes, bubble wrap, all kinds of different things. I think the options are endless once you get those wheels turning in your head and think like, oh yeah, this would look really cool once I cover it up with gesso and then add your sprays on top. So I added some 3D matte gel, and I'm going to be taking some art stones. So I have the mini art stones and then the regular art stones, and I sprinkle them on where I added the 3D matte gel. This way is the best way that I found. I know that I have said, if you've watched many of my videos, I have played around with different, I guess, techniques to adhere the art stones to my projects, and this is the best way I have found. So I just add the 3D matte gel to my project pretty thick, and then I add the art stones on top and kind of just smash them in there, and then that way it'll hold those art stones on the project. So that is how I find works the best. And I do add the mini art stones, and that way it can fill in any other little areas that needs to be filled in. So you can see I'm just gonna pour them on. There isn't much left, and I wasn't really worried about spilling them everywhere, but I should have, because now they are all stuck to my Ken Oliver mat. I like that it's sticky, but at the same time, I hate that it's sticky. I always say that. So, yes, okay, I had to remember what I was doing next. All right, so I let everything dry so that it's all adhered nicely onto this little sled. And now I'm adding some gesso, and again, I do probably 2 or even 3 coats of gesso in some areas, like those bright colored flowers, the purple and the pink one. So I do a couple coats of gesso on those, and that way everything is nice and coated, and then I can add my sprays and all of my color. Alright, you see here I added a couple metal pieces. These are from Tim Holtz, and I've had these for a long time, and I do believe I got them at Michael's. So I don't know if they still have them. I want to say I have had them probably for at least 3 or 4 years. But I know that he always comes out with new Christmas metal pieces and things, so be sure to check it out, and I will try to list everything that I've used in the description box below, as well as over on my website, like I always do, so you can check it out if you are interested in anything. So I added a little bit of water to some of the areas where I wanted the color, that way it would flow nicely, and then I added some soft teal. I don't believe at this time anywhere has this color in stock, the soft teal, but Glistening Waves is really close to it. Surprisingly, it looks totally different, but it's very close. So this darker color here is Dragonfly Blue, and I love this color as well. And you can actually probably water the Dragonfly Blue down quite a bit to get a lighter color. That way you have the variation of color if you can't find this teal color, or you can of course use watered down acrylic paint or anything else that you have. So I am taking the nozzle, and this way I have more control of where the color is going, and I like doing this because I feel it's it gets in all of those grooves and you know, all of those everywhere, all of the cracks and everything a little bit better than as if I were to spray it on. And I actually do spray a little bit on, but I think I dried it in between, and then I'm just adding a little bit of water. I didn't dry it 100% completely dry, but I know that I was drying in between because I really wanted this color to be like very saturated on this project. So you could just see that I am going to continue to add some color here and there, and then I'll dry it, yes, and then I'll dry it again and then add a little bit more. I really wanted a lot of depth to this project, so that's why I am adding the darker color, the Dragonfly Blue. Now this is really important when you do this technique. So I let the color dry completely, and I helped it along a little bit with my heat tool, but you definitely want your color to be dry, your sprays or whatever you use to add color to your project. So I am using some gesso to highlight a lot of that texture, and you want all of your color to be dry because you don't want it to mix in with the gesso. And then you'll see in a little bit that I'm using my heat tool as I am putting on the gesso, and then that is because it helps it dry quicker when I'm doing that. And then yeah, you could see here, I think I'm going to be doing that. And then it helps it dry as I'm putting it on, and that way it's more, I guess it just stays whiter. I don't know. It helps it. It's hard to explain, but if you do it and you try it out, you could see in person what I'm talking about better than if I'm trying to explain it as I'm really, really tired. So anyway, so I just continue to do that. And again, it's just highlighting a lot of those, a lot of that texture. And I wanted, again, a lot of depth to this project. So I added the darker color, and then it got in, you know, under all of those art stones and in between all the art stones, and just created a lot of depth. And then adding the lighter color on top of all that texture and highlighting all of that is really going to give your project a lot of depth. After the gesso dries, I am going in with some vintage silk opal magic wax, and because this is the opal magic wax, it's not really going to show up as if it were to show up on like a darker surface, but I do like the little bit of shimmer it gives this project, and it is a Christmas project, so I did want a little tiny bit of something on there that was going to just give it a little extra something. So I am just highlighting all of those, basically all of the same areas that I was highlighting with the gesso, just going over it. And again, it's just going to give the project just a little bit something. It's hard to see in, you know, on the video, but in person you could see it's a little shimmery. I am going to go in with a little bit of water and then also some Precious Stone Color Bloom spray, and I just wanted a little bit more depth to this project. I just in a few areas, and it dried up and mixed together with the Dragonfly blue, so it didn't stay as dark as it is looking now. Although I do like that look too, but I wanted a softer look to this project. But adding the depth is really going to make your project unique and really stand out, and highlight all of that texture and all of those cool embellishments that you put on your project. So I'm just going in again, taking off the nozzle and just placing it where I want that color, and not adding too much at a time. That way it can go where it wants to, and then I'm not going to overwhelm my project with a color that, this really dark color. And then I'm just going to spray it with a little bit of water and basically let it dry, and that's going to complete this project. I hope you guys enjoyed this really long video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section down below, or find me on social media. If you are looking for any of the products I used, I always have them listed down below and also over on my website, so be sure to check it out. Here is a couple more videos you might like. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. You can always share it on Facebook and tag a friend, pin it to Pinterest. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys later. Bye.